Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Are Out podcast. Today, I have a great guest, my new good friend, Vineet from London, the UK. He's a very interesting gentleman. He's a very heart-centered person. That's how we connected. And he's a creator of a natural business philosophy, supporting entrepreneurs to tap into their business genius. He's also the founder and creator of the natural business philosophy. He runs a training and consultancy company with the same name, the Natural Business Group. So that's what we're going to be talking about, as well as a lot of other things. Vineet, it's a pleasure having you here, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for. I'm very, very grateful for you having me on the show.
My pleasure. So first of all, let's start at the start. For people that don't know you, who's Vineet? You can start and say with however much you want to.
Yeah, Vineet is a man who's on a mission. He's on a mission,
Beautiful.
and his mission is to really teach humanity its true power. Its
Wow.
true power. That we all have power within us to create our lives as we wish. And the journey is to take humanity from force to power, because we all have this power that we don't need to force our egos upon the world.
Mhm.
Instead, that there is a power that we harbor, and we have to learn to tap into that power. What does that power mean? What does it look like? How do we tap into it? Because ultimately all the problems in the world and all the ills in the world are as a result of largely men who feel powerless, right? And these are people who are forcing their agenda upon others, when really, if we all knew that we were powerful, then we would not need to force ourselves upon others. Instead, we would have the spirit of collaboration, and therefore to be able to create results in the world that benefits everyone. So I'm
Mhm.
on a mission. I'm on a mission to help humanity to tap into its own power.
Wow, beautiful. Before we get into that, I'd like to ask you a couple of fun questions. You know, when we grew up, especially when we're in primary school and middle school, people ask us whether parents, family, or teachers. So, Vineet, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your answer back then?
What did I want to become when I was young? The honest answer is I don't remember what I wanted to become, but I can tell you what my parents probably wanted me to become: a doctor, right?
Yes.
I can tell you that much. I mean, I can tell you that I am first generation born in the UK, but my parents came from India.
Mm.
So if it was up to my mother, I definitely would have been a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer. As cliche as it sounds, but it's true, right? But I probably wanted to be a beach bum.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we had a conversation early before going live, and you're also just like me, a big football fan. Growing up, did you have any desire to become a professional football player?
I mean, a lot of young, a
Especially
lot of
growing up in the UK, in a country that's
the
crazy about
UK,
football,
yeah.
like in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was the best at football, right?
Hmm.
I think I was at best very average, shall we say.
Hmm.
And so I guess the footballing dream was probably dashed at a very young age. But I've still got hopes that my son,
Beautiful.
um, if I have one, hopefully I will have one soon. Hopefully he will play for Liverpool Football Club. Hopefully one day.
So I guess his first gift will be a Liverpool kit as soon as he's born, right?
Oh, it doesn't have a choice around that. It
That's
doesn't have a choice.
lovely. Okay, so let's think a little bit more about growing up in school. So when you were in school, what was your favorite subject?
What was my favorite subject in school? That's a good question. Do you know what? I tell you what comes up intuitively, because obviously I don't remember everything about but what
Mhm.
I remember as a kid, I loved cooking. I loved,
Wow.
what do they call it? Like home economics or cooking class or whatever they call it. I think that was something that I really enjoyed.
Wait, you have a cooking class in school in the UK?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Till the age of, I think till the age of 14, or maybe for about 3 or 4 years, from the age of 10 to 14. Yeah.
That's incredible. I've never heard that. And I grew up in France. I went to school in Canada, and I I worked as a football coach and teacher in China, and I never even knew anything like that. I didn't experience that being offered in these places, but in the UK, wow. So what did it teach you in those cooking classes? I'm completely surprised.
Yeah, just how to cook basic food, basic, when you're a kid, you're learning how to make maybe a pasta sauce with
Mm,
pasta, obviously, like you're learning to bake a cake, or you might make cookies, just like basic, the pizza, maybe, for example. I remember making pizza. I actually do remember that. So all the things that kids love to eat.
wow. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
part of the normal curriculum, or that's extra curriculum
No, no,
activities?
no, part of the normal curriculum up to the age of 14. But now I'm not sure whether that still exists today. I'm not sure.
That's
But it
amazing.
but it definitely
Teach
did when I was a kid.
That's amazing. Teaching children those life skills like cooking. I would be very curious to know if that is still taught today, because that would be amazing. That's something, wow.
Yeah. I
Because
mean that probably explains partially why, if I was not doing the work I do today, if I didn't run the company and the consultancy that I run today, that my second thing would be I would have been a chef. I love to cook. I love it.
that's true, because I've traveled a lot, and most of the chefs I met on the road were either French, Italian, or English.
Okay. Okay.
So that can kind of explain that. Wow, that's amazing. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
so how did you? Okay, how did you? So after you finished school, how did you end up in the path that you are now?
Okay, so I guess it was a okay. So I was so what I would say. This is what actually happened. Life took me on this path. I
Hmm.
did not have a conscious. I did not make a conscious choice to get onto this path, and I'll tell you why. I used to have a stammer, so I was not able to speak fluently. Okay,
Okay.
so I would stutter and stammer. I couldn't get my words out. Okay,
Okay.
and that caused me a lot of anguish. It caused me a lot of
Sure.
anxiety, a lot of issues, right?
Hmm.
And that, along with having a father who came from an army background, so very strict.
Hmm.
um, Me and my father did not have the best sort of relationship, and he didn't mean to, but my confidence was shot to pieces as a kid.
Hmm.
But mainly, my lack of confidence, particularly my speech impediment, forced me, because even when I went to university, I had this problem with my speech, right? And so it forced me to look inwards. It forced me to look at myself, because from your pain often comes are your greatest gifts, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So from your pain comes your triumph often, right? So for me, I finished university, and I was I was borderline suicidal. I mean,
Wow.
I wasn't very happy as a human, as a person, and I essentially flunked university. Like, I didn't get the best degree. I did economics at university, but I was so anxious about myself throughout my teenage years and my early 20s that
Hmm.
I couldn't perform in life in anything, because I was so self conscious about myself, right?
Hmm.
So that took attention away from external focus to becoming self-conscious, right? And as a result, when you get to a stage in your early 20s where you seriously consider, is my life worth living, right? You have suicidal thoughts like I did. You get to a crossroads in your life, right? You get to a
Sure.
serious crossroads in your life. And I went through, I guess you could say, a major, not a midlife crisis, an early crisis, right? I hadn't even got to midlife. I was only
Quarter
22, 23
life.
years old. Sorry?
A quarter life crisis.
Quarter, exactly, right? A quarter
Hmm.
life crisis. And that quarter life crisis, essentially where it led me was, I recognized that maybe someone said this to me, or
Hmm.
maybe it was my inner voice. I can't remember, is the honest answer. But essentially, it was um, I realized that all of my problems were within me, and all of my solutions were also going to come from within me, right?
Absolutely.
It was an internal job. I had to change me in order to change my world, right?
Totally.
So I started to meditate from a very young age. I've been meditating from the age of probably 25, 26, 27, right?
Wow.
So I just started to meditate. And so that took me down the path of that I'm on today. That was the path.
Hmm. So that's amazing. How did you get into meditation? Was it someone in your family, a friend, or how did you get
No,
into that?
no, no, it wasn't. It wasn't actually. Like no one in my family was into meditation. No one taught me meditation. I just started to sit in stillness. Just sit in stillness. Um, Sitting in stillness allowed me to observe myself. It allowed
Hmm.
me to contemplate who I was being. It allowed me to tap into a deeper wisdom within myself. And actually, it was meditation that gave me the intuition for my first business. That was my intuition. Was I had an intuition about my first business, because that business, that methodology ended up helping me out of my own issues, and then I ended up helping others, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And nowadays, I would say that being able to meditate and be able to quiet your mind is absolutely vital, especially in this day and age where everything and everyone is trying to catch our attention, where people's attention span is less than a goldfish, even less than that. So that's being able to meditate and quiet your mind and listen to yourself, listen to your inner thoughts. That's one of the most invaluable things that we as human being can do at this time. Awesome.
Exactly. Agreed.
So tell us a bit more about what's your business. What are you doing currently?
So currently, I had a previous training and coaching business, but in the last year or two, what I've done is I've transitioned into um, a training and consultancy business. Particularly, so the actual philosophy is called the natural business philosophy. Okay, and the essence of the natural business philosophy is that in order to create a business, right? In
Hmm.
order to create a business, in fact, in order to create anything is the honest answer. But in the field of business where I operate, the truth of it is that we harbor a creative intelligence within ourselves, right? So the example that I always give is of nature. Okay, so we'll take the example of an acorn. Okay, an acorn has within it a creative intelligence and creative intelligence.
Hmm.
That creative intelligence is what allows that seed, which is the acorn, to become an oak tree, right? Or you can take nature within ourselves, right? A fetus, in order for a fetus to go from a fetus to being a child to being an adult, there is a creative intelligence, there is a creative um, spirit within us, right? There is a go from being a fetus to being. Oh, can you hear me? I think it's just
Yeah, yeah.
dropped. So that creative intelligence, nature has given us all. We are part of nature, right? And
Absolutely.
nature has given us the creative intelligence for us to become what we want to become and create what we want. But there's a problem in the world, and the reason that I started this business, this this training and this consultancy business, is because there is one fundamental problem in the world. Business people have it. I've seen it. It's rife in the business world,
Mm.
and that problem is this. The problem is we as business owners unconsciously believe that the authority or the experts in being able to create our business lies in the world, in the external world. The so-called consultants, the advisors, um, the the experts, right? we live in a time right now where, as you said earlier, we are inundated with information from the external world, right? We have more data coming from the outside in than ever before, right?
Sure.
So there are so-called experts that are selling us the elixir, right? The elixir for us to be able to create. Take this formula, take this strategy, take this formula, and your life, your business will go alakazam, and you'll have the business of your dreams. That if that was the solution, why is it that 99% of business owners take that information? Number one, often they don't do anything with it. Number two, why is it? Why is it that often when we take advice from the experts, that we do not, it does not end up benefiting our business? We do not get the results we want, right? So that is a fundamental problem, that we think that the answers and the solutions for our businesses lies on the outside. And the root reason why we believe that the expertise is on the outside is because we believe we're powerless. On an unconscious level, we human beings believe we're powerless. One of the examples of that, when we think of authority, we think outside of ourselves. Most people do not think they're the authority, right? They abdicate responsibility. They make others the authority outside of ourselves. And
Let me ask you a question. Sorry to interrupt. Let me ask a question. So essentially it boils down to lack of self-belief. So in your experience, where does this lack of self-belief originate from?
You see, I would go, it's further than, it's more than self-belief. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how we create our world. It's a fundamental misunderstanding. It's not just a belief in, yes, you could say it's a belief, you could on some level, but it's a fundamental misunderstanding. And I'll tell you the root of the misunderstanding. The root of it is a religious misunderstanding, right?
Interesting.
We as human beings, and this is not in our generation, it's in our DNA from generations gone by. We have been taught that there is a God outside of us, right? That there is a power, there is a divine power outside of us. Every religion has on some level taught us that we need to pray to this power, right? That says that the power is outside of us, right? So it's a fundamental misconception of existence. It's a fundamental misconception. What I'm saying is that actually creation happens from the inside out. Look at anything in existence. When we give birth to an idea, it happens from the inside out. When nature forms into whatever it's destined to be created into, an acorn becoming an oak tree, a fetus becoming a child, everything happens from nothingness or from inside out. We have a misunderstanding that creation happens from the outside in. It does not. It happens from the inside out. And that is a fundamental problem, where I am on a mission, and ultimately it's powerlessness, right? And I'm on a mission to teach business owners that the power is within you, and that there is a way that you can learn to tap into that power.
Absolutely. Wow, makes sense. So it's religion, as well as, how much do you think what we are taught in school has to do anything with that?
Life is inversion. Life is a lie. I'm going to say that again for all the viewers that will listen to this. Literally everything we've been taught by the world is on some level a lie. It's our understanding of life has been inversed. It's an inversion, right? From religion to governments, right? We've been taught that the governments have the power. No, actually, they're here to serve us, but they don't act like it, right? They don't act like it, right?
I think was it Ronald Reagan, one of the greatest US American presidents, said The most dangerous phrase you can ever hear is someone saying, "Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you."
Yeah.
And that was Ronald Reagan himself saying that.
Yeah. You know, if we just look at the way governments are operating in the world, if they really cared about us, right? But you see, it's not even the fault of the government. The governments are a product of our human psyche. And our human psyche says, I abdicate responsibility. I am not powerful. Because if you were, then you wouldn't be waiting for governments to give us the permission to be able to do this and that. But to answer your question, the root problem is religious, it's governmental, it's schooling, it's education, it's parenting, it's fundamentally corrupted human psyche. It's a fundamentally corrupted human psyche that we have been taught that the power is on the outside. Whether you're a spiritual person that believes in a divine, a creation, or whether you're not, it doesn't matter. It's really not important. But fundamentally, whatever you assign power to, unconsciously, there is a process that I do with business leaders. I show them that fundamentally, you do not believe you're powerful. And the way that your behaviors play out. And I also do it often. And I'm often having to catch myself, right? It's a fundamentally corrupted human psyche that has to shift. And I'm on a mission to shift that in my own way.
How do you do that? Can you walk us through the process of, let's say, for example, I was one of your clients. So walk me through to changing some of my beliefs and all that.
Totally. Okay. So you are because I know that you are a business owner. Okay. So in the past, with my previous consultancy business and coaching business, we used to work with the average Joe. But now we only work, me and my team, we only work with business owners. Okay. So let's just apply it to the business world. Okay. Imagine you are my business client. Okay. Natural business philosophy says, as I said earlier, right, just to set the stage, that you have a creative intelligence within you. Okay. Your job is to tap into that in order for you to create the result or the outcome that you want. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the process? Number one, now there is a lot of detail behind each step, but I'll just give you an overview for now. And then if you want to ask questions, you feel free to ask.
Cool.
But with an overview, step number one is about focus. Step number one is the nature of, our attention, where we put our attention dictates the nature of our experience. Okay. So step number one is
sorry to interrupt you. Say that again, because that's very powerful.
Our experience, the way that we experience life is the product of it's the nature of our attention. Let me say it again. It's the nature of our attention that determines our experience of life.
Very powerful, very true. Yes, indeed.
Okay. So where we put our attention is the first step. Where are we putting our attention? Where are we putting our focus? Now, there's a caveat. Most people say, yes, I need to focus on my goals so much, right? And I'm like, why do you not have the result you want? Right? And a part of this is we teach people where they're putting their unconscious focus, right?
1 second, let me just, okay, sorry about that.
Okay. So what I was saying was, first step is in understanding where you put your attention, right? Because your attention determines the experience of life. Okay.
I love that quote. I'm gonna write this down. That's one of the most powerful quotes I've heard. That's right. So true.
Yeah. So from that, in stage one, what we do is, if businesses and business leaders and companies are not getting their results, one of the things we do, we look at where is their unconscious focus. Where is their unconscious focus? So I'll give you an example, right? I myself, when I'm not getting the results that I want in my business, it's often my unconscious agenda or focus is safety. I'm needing safety, right? But there is an intuitive process that we go through to look at you as a human being. You will have had a conditioning from your childhood, right? You will have certain needs that your psyche has, okay? And your ego's job is to fulfill those needs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore the agenda of your identity or your ego is to make sure that you get those needs met, right? So therefore there is an unconscious focus that plays out. So we, in first step, now there's a lot more to it, but I'm giving you a shortened version, like a 2% version.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially understanding where is your unconscious focus when you're not getting a result or an outcome that you desire within your company, within your business, or with your team.
Mm-hmm.
That means that your attention is unconsciously focused on something else. Because I'm here to tell people at home, now some people might not like this, but I'm telling you straight up, is that every experience in our life is consciously or unconsciously, we have a hand in that creation, right? We have a hand in that creation. You can literally break down your unconscious behaviors and you'll see even the most difficult of circumstances within your business. You may say the world created that, the pandemic happened and this happened. I will always bring you back to your power. You unconsciously had a hand in that creation or that outcome in your business, right? So that's step number one, is to bring you back to realizing that that the result or the outcome is a product of your focus, often unconscious focus, but it is. So it's about understanding that. That's step number one. Step number two is when we have ascertained what I call a positive vision or a true vision, because there is a true north that is true for each of our psyches, right? There's a true north, there's a false south, shall we call it? There's a true north. True north is something that calls us. We don't know why, but it calls us, right? There is a calling. So, what we do in that step is we create a true north. And most people are not creating a vision that is true north. And I'll explain to you why quickly. What they are creating is a negative vision. What is
And
a
by
negative vision?
and by true north, do you mean something is in perfect in line with their values, the
With
passion, the
who they truly
purpose?
are. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You know, it
Okay.
calls them. They don't manufacture it in their head. There's something beyond themselves that calls within their heart, you could say. It's
Mm,
true in their heart, right?
okay.
But the thing that we get now, what we do with business owners is we get them to realize, do you have a negative vision in play? What a negative vision is, you're trying to get away from something. You're not trying to create something. You're getting away from something because it's negative, but you're not actually installing or putting in place a positive vision, which is a vision for its own sake, not because it's trying to get away from something. So one of the issues right now, we work with a lot of business leaders and owners that are unconsciously are being driven by a negative vision because they're trying to get away from the pandemic. There is an unconscious focus, right, towards we need to get away from the pandemic. And I'm like, if I say to you, don't think of a pig, what do you think of?
Big, yeah.
Yeah. So your mind is designed, whatever image you give it, it will go. So if you say to it, don't think of the pandemic, or don't, if you say to yourself, I need to get away from the pandemic in my business, right? You're building a business that is going to succumb to the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's about a negative vision to a positive vision. And then there's this whole work that we do around that, right? Step number two, now that we've looked at how the mind orientates itself, right? The mind is orientating itself always, either towards the problems or towards the creation. Most people are focused on the problem. Step number two, this is where we now do work on your identity or your ego, right? Now, to be able to let that go, right? To be able to move, because if you rely upon your ego or your identity, right? Most people's focus, as I said earlier, is upon their own unconscious focus. This is now what step number 2 is called ego neutralization or identity neutralization. In this bit, we have to unhook you from your continuous obsession, unconscious obsession from yourself. When you are creating something in your life, you're either focused upon yourself and your own agenda or your creation. Whenever business leaders get stuck in either with their team or themselves in their business, it's because the attention has become about them. They've made it about themselves, okay, and about their belief systems and about their thoughts, their emotions. This is where we neutralize the ego, where we neutralize. Now, bear in mind, you will never get rid of the identity. You will never get rid of the ego. It was formed in your early childhood, right? It's a self-image, right? And then you project that outwards, right? But what we can do is to move it out the way, right? So that you don't serve it, you serve the creation, right? The business that you want to create. So that's step number 2. And as part of that, there is something that we teach called emotional acceptance, which is a way to let go of the charge, the emotional charge that keeps getting your attention, right? And that was part of my previous business, but I brought that into this, which is how do we let go of not reacting to our world emotionally, right? Because when you're reacting, then you're caught. And step number 3, obviously there's more to that. Step number 3 is where we tap into your intuition, which is now the whole 3 steps are about creative intelligence. But step number 3 is where the seed harbors the intelligence to know how to become an oak tree. This is where we teach you to be able to tap into answers and solutions, strategies that are in alignment to your business within you, as opposed to needing external validation from all these experts. You already have most of the answers. Now, you may need support technically, right? But beyond technical, there is a creativity within you. So if you really want to create a business that stands out, that is creative, that is not a copycat, you have to learn to trust that individual within yourself.
That's very important.
Those are
Yes.
the 3 overarching steps that we take people through, because it's a natural process. It's not my process. It's a natural process.
And how is your program structured? Is it like online? Is it a mastermind? Is it a one-on-one with calls, or do you have videos? How is your program structured?
So yeah, so up till now, up till recently, there are 3 programs. There is a one-to-one program, and there's a one-to-one program where I take a business leader or a business owner or an entrepreneur through the journey of natural business, right? So one-to-one. The other one is where we work with the whole company or the whole team, okay? And that is where me and my trainers come in, and we take your business from building your business from the outside in, and now doing it from the inside out. Because if you do it from the outside in, you may become a victim to the world at any moment, right? Your business may be affected, because if you're waiting for the world, that when this happens in the world and then I can create my business in this way, now that is when you could fall victim to the pandemic. For example, many businesses are are becoming victims to it. So that's number 2. So we have a corporate program, right, that we work with companies and businesses. And then actually a third one, which I've just launched recently, is a men's circle. It's a business men's circle, whereby I teach businessmen to be able to tap into this inherent creative intelligence, and it's a men's circle. But I'm in the process of putting online courses together. There are 2 online courses, and those courses take you on a journey of tapping into that creative intelligence from within you.
That's awesome. Wow. How long have you been running these programs for?
So I've been running forms of these programs for about 12 years.
Oh, wow.
But this,
Okay.
but this newest version of my new consultancy for the last year and a half to 2 years.
Awesome. What would you say has been so far the most remarkable example of change, of transformation you've seen from your clients? Obviously, you don't have to divulge any name or any specifics, but generally speaking, what has been so far the most remarkable, inspiring transformation you've seen from one of your clients going through your program so far?
Um, yeah, so there's one client that actually, there are so many stories, right? But I'll just go with the one that comes up intuitively first of all,
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
One of the problems that businesses have is this: it's called yo-yoing, right? Money coming in, money coming out, not enough
Oh,
money,
yeah.
money. You'll be surprised with even with very successful businesses, there is an undulation that takes place, right? Because
Yes.
oscillation, oscillation is what human beings do, right? Pendulum is what human beings do, right? So there is always within virtually every business, there is always an oscillation taking place. Okay. I sense you want to say something. You want to say something?
No, I was about to say that's so true because we are basically at the core, we are frequency, and frequency obviously,
Always goes up and down, right?
oscillate. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And as I was saying earlier, part of the reason that most businesses tend to oscillate is because I call it the battle of evermore. There is always a battle, and the battle is between the heart or the creative part of you and your ego, that identity that feels that doesn't want to create, it is scared, and there is always a battle, and that battle is what creates the oscillation, right? So
Mhm.
one of the examples is of a recent client actually. Um, we this is a small thing, but I really want to share this because I feel it will be beneficial to everyone watching this. What we understood was his business is a six-figure business. Okay, it's a multi-six-figure agency,
Okay.
a traditional marketing agency, and they've got many members of staff. They've got a small team, and one of the things in one of the earlier calls that we ascertained, he said to me, my business makes money. We make really good money. And then we go down, and then we come up, we go down. It was like, can we look at that? So we did a process. It's called a conflict deconstruction process. And this process gets to the unconscious, gets to understand why would your psyche be creating that result? Okay. Because I come back to this, even the oscillation is the creation of the human psyche. It's benefiting you in some way. It's basic psychology. In psychology now, they understand that there is a payoff to any result that you're creating. There's always a benefit. As
Mm.
twisted as the benefit may sound, there's always a benefit. Okay. So we did a process whereby we looked at what is the unconscious payoff for the benefit of his business oscillating. Why would it benefit? Why would he benefit from his business having less money? Why would it benefit? Now you would think to yourself, but that doesn't make sense. Like, why would he benefit from 1 month he's making, I don't know, £20,000 because he's based in the UK, and versus some other months making £100,000 a month? Like, why would he benefit from that? And I'll tell you what it was. We uncovered that his psyche, he needs to prove himself. He needs to prove himself. His identity is fixated upon proving itself to people. And one of the ways that he proves himself is in a disaster situation, he becomes the hero.
Ah, okay.
So unconsciously, he needs to prove himself. Therefore, there needs to be a bit of a disaster in order for him to be able to show his team that he is the man at the rescue, right? So his attention is on proving himself, not on creating. It's on proving himself. When we shifted that, the business early days, but the business has started to no longer does he need to prove himself, or he's starting to prove himself less. And now the attention goes to step number one. Now the attention is on the creation, but not on fulfilling its own needs of adulation and validation.
Wow, makes sense. Yes, incredible. That's beautiful. Okay, let me ask you about something a bit related to what we talked earlier, which is about heart. The theme of my podcast is Leader with a Heart. That is basically uh, entrepreneurs who are building businesses that are not only making money but also contributing. So, what would you say is a cause that you're personally very passionate about and that you would like with your business to be contributing and more active towards helping?
Okay, so there are a couple. I mean, my whole business on a macro level is a course. Okay, the way that the business is set up is it's a mission driven business, so naturally it's a heart driven business. And as
Mm.
I said to you earlier, I feel, there's the story of, um, if you can teach a farmer to fish, right, he'll never go hungry, as opposed to giving him a fish, right? As opposed to just giving him fish, teach him how to fish, and him and his family will never go hungry. I'm within our business. Yes, we have a consultancy side and a training side, and the consultancy side helps to be able to tap into the answers and solutions for your business. But really, the mission is to tap into your power, is to teach you once and for all that the power is within you, right? And that there
Mhm.
is a creativity within you that you can tap into to create your life and your business. But if you want to go into more of causes that I'm particularly aligned to, um, I'm assuming that you mean causes as in charitable sort of causes and things to
Oh,
make a difference.
yes, but also because you mentioned that your business is a heart driven, that's perfectly fine as well. But by that I mean is that there's a difference between a business that's purely profit driven versus one that is cost driven. So by
Yeah.
cost driven, it doesn't mean that it's not necessarily that you're financially contributing, as long as you're helping in any way, shape, or form someone or a part of society to get better, whether it's in terms of your knowledge or whatever. That's perfectly fine as well. Okay.
Yeah, there are quite a few levels.
Sure.
Number one is this, right? I believe that it starts with giving, contributing in the world.
Hmm.
It begins with giving and contributing. What are you genuinely contributing, right? And that contribution doesn't begin in the business. It begins with the way you live your life, right?
Absolutely.
It's the way you live your life. How do you treat others, right? Your business, I am my business. It begins with me, right? I am an ambassador for my business. My business and me are not separate, right? It's my creation. So it actually, I would actually go a step further, and I would say to you, yes, there are causes that I'm aligned to. Yes, there are philosophies that I live by with my own business, which I'll share with you in a second. But actually, it comes down to who are you being on a daily basis,
Mm.
right?
Speaking of that, I read a quote last night that really stuck with me. It's that the way you spend your days are a reflection of how you spend your life.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
It's so true, right? So really, for example, right, when we walk through the world, many of us are very busy, right? And we often, don't see other people often. We don't notice them, right? But one of my habits is to bless people. Quietly in
Mm.
my own mind, I bless people. I just
Amazing.
send them blessings, right? And I don't say anything to anyone. Sometimes I may well be in an interaction,
I
right?
love that. Wow.
Right? Whereby I will say bless you, right? But actually it's more than that. It's a silent blessing. There could be a difficult situation for a person that I see. Bless them. Because we're very quick to jump on the bandwagon when things go wrong in the world, right? See it as a problem, right? But do we notice that there is a solution at on offer, right? That we can be part of a solution, and it starts with our own vibe. So what I do is, one of the many things I do is I have a blessing philosophy. And that isn't trying. I'm not trying to go out my way to bless people. That's just the way that I operate throughout my life. Right?
I love that. I'm
Right.
gonna implement that myself. I
Yeah.
also have a habit of, when I see something or someone that is not whatever, I said, just like you, blessing in a different way. I say, I want you to be happy and be healthy. And
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I wish you happiness, health, and success, even
Yes.
without them, just in my mind, say,
Yeah.
even when
Yeah.
someone does something bad to me, whatever, I say, listen, I don't need anything from you. I just want you to be happy, to be healthy, and to be in peace with what you're doing.
Yeah. 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 So true, right? And then
Hmm.
within my own business, so the way that I have sales consultations, I do not believe in selling. Like I don't, I don't believe in trying to sell something, right? It's I operate with the philosophy of giving, right? That's the
Wow,
way that
love
I've
that.
always operated, right? Is what can I contribute? What can I give to make a difference, right?
I love
And
that.
I'll be totally transparent with that's the way I've lived my life. When I or my company, when we try and get a deal, try and get a client, like we got to get a client, right? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's like going on a date and being desperate, right? She's not going to be into you, right? That's just the way it pans out.
I love that. I just had a podcast on Friday with a guy in Toronto who is an absolute ninja when it comes to closing sales. He was a former pastor, and he said, when I get on these calls with people, I don't try to sell. I do not sell at all. I try because what I do is I listen. I listen, and I just try to see what would be the best solution to their problem. If I don't have it, I will just be honest with them. Listen, this is not a good match. I'm not about the money, because he has his heart at a good place. He does. It's not about the numbers from. It's about making a difference, positive difference. Because it says in the world of sales, the worst feeling is pushing someone to get out the credit card and sell, and then as soon as they get off the phone, to have this horrible feeling of buyer's remorse.
Exactly. And that's not good. See, the thing is,
Mhm.
also what we got to understand, this whole sales and selling, the way that you just described it, these are all issues that come from a fundamental belief and the fundamental misunderstanding of human consciousness. And the fundamental misunderstanding is, see, our eyes make us believe, our mind makes us believe that we are separate, right?
Mhm.
That we're separate. But actually, my experience of life is that we're all connected on some level. Everything is
Absolutely.
connected. For example, you can do something there and something, you just receive a phone call from there and you go, wait, is that a coincidence or what just happened? I have experienced in my life, everything's connected.
Oh
If
yeah.
everything is connected, who you're serving in front of you is not a customer, you're serving an aspect of yourself, right? You're just
Yes.
serving an aspect of yourself. If you were in front of you, how would you deal with you,
Absolutely. Yes.
right?
Yes.
And fundamentally, it's a belief of separation, right? It's a belief in not understanding the interconnected nature of life, right? It's a separation. Therefore, when you understand the interconnected nature of life, you will understand that they have a need, as you just said, that this pastor, who's the ex-pastor, they have a need. If you had a need, right, would you want a solution and give them something that will make a difference to them, right? That would
Yeah.
genuinely. And if it fundamentally, I believe that if your solution is really the right thing for them and their spirit, they'll find a way to work with you. If it's right for them, if it's an alignment on every level, whether it's pricing, whether it's the opportunity, the solution, etc., they'll find a way to work with you. And I believe now, my email address, my company email address says care@naturalbusiness.org. The reason it says care is because I friggin' care. It's not a slogan, it's not an email address. It's I show up because I care. And sometimes
I
my
love
ego
that.
takes over me, and I try and make a sale. And then I'm reminded that's why you don't try and sell, because you need to care.
Man, I love these podcasts because I get to connect with people. They're absolutely, I love just soaking up all the wisdom from you. Just dropped amazing value bomb. I'm taking notes. I love your blessing philosophy. I love what you just said. Having the care instead of info or inquiry, just care at the email, not just for the sake of looking good, but actually caring. These are things that I'm going to be
Caring.
implementing myself. Thank you for that. That's what I love these podcasts and these. Wow, that's amazing. Cool.
Sorry. So let me say one thing.
Sure.
There's a quote that I read by Lao Tzu, I think it is, the
Mm-hmm.
Tao Te Ching. He
Yeah.
says, the quote says something like, uh, if you help someone, maybe in 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, but when you help someone, you will be helped. You will be helped. That is law. What you put out is what you get back, fundamentally.
Basic law of karma. Yes.
Basic.
And even Zig Ziglar said that's in a different way. He said, if you can help as many, try to help as many people as possible with their problem, and you will have no problem of your own. Something like that.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm butchering off the quote, but it's something along those lines.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, that's amazing. Cool. What would you say of the past 12, what would you say has been so far, maybe it doesn't apply to you, that something that was the greatest, the biggest obstacle and challenge in your life that you turn around and now you made your biggest quality or skill? You want me to give you an example? Like,
Yes.
for
Yes.
example, I had an amazing, one of the most inspiring, awe-inspiring interview with someone from Australia a few weeks ago. I recommend if you or anyone listening to watch it. So this is a guy who grew up in a fairly successful household, but because he grew up with a narcissistic father who was very successful, but each time he was trying to do something, was always trying to put him down. No, you're not good. You're not good. I don't want you to do that. Whatever. Just trying to push him down. So his problem was a constant and chronic lack of self-belief. So, and that has pursued him all along his life. It took him one divorce, two suicide attempts, and one heart attack until he finally mustered the courage to say enough is enough. So,
Yeah.
and to pursue his passion. So after that, he sold whatever business he had, and he now is on a mission to write a book. This is coming from someone that has never written a book. So now is a mission to write a book to inspire 1 billion kids around the world to believe in themselves, because he wished he had something, he had someone, that kind of, what do you call it, leadership or support when he was growing up. So now this chronic lack of self-belief that has been plaguing him all his life, he's turned that now into his biggest asset. So would you say there's anything similar in your life that you turned around and made something that was one of the biggest obstacle in your life,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
it
No.
was a self-belief or anything or family, whatever, that now you turned around and made into an amazing asset?
So there are quite a few examples that I could give you, right? But I'm gonna really share something personal.
Mhm.
Really, really personal. I don't know. I don't think I've ever shared it online. Really, I don't think I have, but I'll share it. I mean, it's the
Awesome.
first thing that comes to my mind. Um, you see, I come from a Hindu family. Okay,
Mhm.
so my parents were Hindus. They came from India. I was born over here, and within our religion, consciously or unconsciously, what we're taught, or what a lot of people are taught, is that destiny is not in my hands, is not in our hands.
Mhm.
Destiny is in the hands of the creator, whatever you want to call that, right?
Mhm.
So, not that my parents said that to me directly, they did not, but that was my interpretation and my understanding from religion and from my upbringing. So I remember in my very young years, very, very young, I remember having nightmares. And the nightmares were reoccurring. The nightmare was, I am stuck inside a box. Then there's a box outside of that box. There's a bigger box and a bigger box. And what that box nightmare represented is I can't get out of the box. Right? I'm stuck. And as I got older, I understood the meaning of that nightmare. And the meaning of that nightmare was that I have a destiny and I can't change it. I have a life and a life track, a life path, and I can't change it. These are the cards I've been dealt, and this is the way it is. Okay. That was my fundamental belief. And if I'm honest with you, and if I'm totally honest with you, I'm still learning that I have the power, because often we teach others what we need the most. Right?
Yes, very true.
Right? And there is no shame in really being honest and saying I haven't got all my shit together, because no one has, is the truth. No one has. Okay. We've all got aspects of ourselves that are incomplete. And that's just evolution, right? That's evolution. We evolve from incompleteness to perceived completeness and beyond, right? But we're never complete. We're never complete, right? But what I would say is that fundamental structural weakness in believing that I have a destiny, that there's a life and I can't control it. I've proven to myself and to clients that you may have, and we all have, most of us have an unconscious belief that some things are out of our control, that we cannot influence our lives. Now, people may say that actually I don't believe that, but if you look at their life, you can see that that's what they believe. But for me, I've gone on to build 2 successful consultancy training businesses, right? When I was told by priests, I remember a Hindu priest coming to my parents' house in my 20s and saying, "You'll never build a successful business. Never, ever."
Wow.
Actually said that to me, and it crushed me. And he said that because according to your astrological chart or something,
Come on.
that you know what? It said that you can only be an engineer or an accountant. Now, I became a semi-qualified accountant, believe it or not. I would have been a rubbish accountant, but I became a semi-qualified accountant. And then I dropped out. I dropped out when I realized I'm not living according to this prescription that I've been given. And many of us are living out our lives according to a prescription that we've been given to us from the world, right? But I managed to let that prescription go and to be able to create businesses that had impact, and they continue to have impact. So if I can be told that it's not in my destiny, which I believe is even worse than being told that you do not believe. It's worse than a belief. It's a fundamental view of the way that you believe life happens. That if I can turn around that and continue to turn that around, everyone, what is your fundamental? See, I would just say to the people that are watching this, and this is really important. If you're having certain problems in your life, you have a fundamental, structural view of the world that is harming you. What is your structural? And it's even beyond a belief. It's not just a thought. It's a way of perceiving the world that's harming you. What is your way of perceiving the world that you're scared to look at? Right? Because we all have debilitating ways of perceiving the world. Right? What is your debilitating story of the world? What is it? And then get you to look at that and to transmute that. Because when you do, that's when your perception opens up. And that's when change occurs.
That's amazing. Yeah. Wow. I mean, it's so sad that someone of such a position of power, like a priest, would say to someone, to a young person with aspiration, "You're never gonna be do that." I mean, that should be criminal. I mean,
But you see, they're only telling us what they were taught.
yeah.
There's this story that I always remember since I was a kid. So there was a woman, and she was cooking chicken, right? She was making a chicken, and her daughter asked her, Mother, why are you putting a chicken that's that big inside a pot that's that big?" And she was like, because my mother used to do it that way. Then she goes and asks her mother. She says to her mother, Mother, why do you cook? Why did you teach me to cook a chicken that's that big in a pot that's that big?
That's a
She said,
great
because
question,
my
actually.
mother used to do it. My mother used to do it. The point of the story is we're only regurgitating our view of the world that was given to us by our parents and by our ancestors.
Yes, we are creatures of habits, and one principle that I've learned over the past few months is that the first 7 years of a child's life are the most important, because that's when all they do is just like a sponge to just absorb knowledge. That's when 90% of all their beliefs are formed. And after
Correct.
the age of 7, it's just a matter of just accessing, just like in a file in a computer, from a
Exactly.
file whatever you need. So
Exactly.
that's the way we told, that's the way we grow up, and that's very affects the rest of our life. That's so true.
Yeah.
Let me ask you now some fun questions,
Mm.
because we can go on for hours and hours. You're such a knowledgeable person. We will definitely do like a follow-up in a few months, but for now, okay, let me ask you some fun question. um First of all, do you have a podcast yourself?
Do I have a podcast?
Yes.
N- Not officially, no. I mean, I do videos, but I don't have a podcast officially, no.
Okay. Okay. Let's imagine that you have your podcast, very successful podcast, but today your guest is the most special person in the world, which is yourself. You're interviewing yourself. What will be the first question that comes to mind that you want to ask yourself? That's not a question that you rehearsed or prepared. That's the first question that comes to your mind. What would that be and why?
So what you're saying is, what is the question that I would ask myself?
Yes, you're interviewing yourself on your podcast, and what the first question that comes to mind? Again, it's not a question that you've rehearsed and prepared. It's the first question that comes to your mind.
So the first question that that comes to my mind is, what truly matters to your heart?
Hmm. Okay, and what would be your answer?
Is to share my heart with the world.
Beautiful, love that. Okay, now imagine now that you have a superpower, which is time travel, a time machine. Imagine you're able to go back and sit face to face with your 18-year-old self, knowing what you know now. What would be the first piece of advice that you would give yourself?
I'd say surrender. So just relax. Surrender. There is an intelligence within you that is evolving, that is becoming something. It's your nature to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Just relax into that intelligence. Just relax
Wow,
into it.
beautiful. Speaking of superpowers, if you were to be able to choose to have one superpower, which one would it be and why?
One superpower. You know how I would answer that? I already
Yeah.
have a superpower, right?
Okay.
Let me answer this, right?
Okay.
I already have a superpower, and my superpower is my intuition, right? So this is what genuinely just came up. So I'm just sharing it, right?
Good. Good. Thank
My
you.
superpower is that I can literally look at a human being with their problem, and I can tell them what's really going on beneath the surface. I can just talk to them and I can tell you what's going on beneath the surface,
Mhm.
right? So what people believe is the problem is often not the problem. There is something else going on. And so
Mhm.
my superpower is actually intuition, particularly when I apply it in the business world. Obviously, I can tell with any problem within the business world, I can just tell. But generally, as human beings, I've always had a strong intuition, and I've really, really, really honed it. And we all have an intuition, but the issue is we don't listen to it, we don't observe it, we don't use it. Our intuition belongs to us, but the other five senses do not belong to us.
That's so true, because I had a podcast just recently with an amazing woman from Canada. She was talking about exactly that, the fact that a lot of people are not, what we need to do is, get back with our intuition, just listen to it more closely, more carefully, and not try to repress it, because society, family, parents, everyone tell us Don't listen to your gut feeling, to your instinct. Try to be nice, trying to be polite and things like that. Whereas a lot of ways, and she's teaching out in the business world to people how to get back and listen more closely, more attentively to their intuition. That's so powerful.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
Um, okay. What would be the number one productivity tip that you would like to share with us?
What would be the number one productivity tip? That's a very good question. You know how I
That
would answer that?
something that you use yourself in your personal life, in your business, and all that.
So I would say you are the productivity tip. You are
Mm,
the productivity. Let me explain that.
please.
We live in a world where we're all looking for the next tip, the next hack, the next how to, the 7 steps to, the next strategy. That is criminal.
Yes,
If
agree.
those tips were to work, then we would have used them, but we haven't. And the question to ask is, why do you keep looking for tips?
Hmm.
Why do you keep doing that? Because you know, if you're honest, you're never going to use that tip. You're never going to use a strategy. And even if you were, it probably wouldn't work for you because it didn't come from within you. That's my tip.
Very powerful words. Very powerful words. Awesome. I will
You
definitely
know,
have to
people,
rewatch this.
yeah, people need to stop reading tips and strategies and how to's and hacks. Stop it. Start to listen to you.
It all comes
There is
down to
your
you.
way, your way. Reduce the external stimuli, reduce it massively.
Just like you said at the beginning, the answer is not outside. The answer is within. Don't look for
Yeah.
authorities or guidance from outside. Sure, they can give you some whatever.
You
Share
know,
some
I'm,
wisdom.
I'm actually going to say something quite controversial here, right?
Hmm.
I'm going to say that there is a fundamental peddling, shall we say, of advice, and that is
Hmm.
go get a coach. Go get a coach. Everyone's saying it right now. Go get a coach. Go get a mentor. Go get a coach. That's fantastic. It's brilliant, right? There are people that really can serve us. On some level, I'm a coach and I have been for years. But why would I be contradicting? Like if I am one, why would I be saying that? Let me explain this to you.
Hmm.
What happens is a lot of the expertise in the world is people, not everyone, but there are a large percentage of experts, shall we call them coaches, who are giving you their 7 steps too. Okay. It's usually, it never works. The reason is because modeling other people, yes, I get it. Modeling can work on principle levels. A principle is not a tip or a strategy or a how to. A principle is a way of being, okay? Is a way of understanding the world. And
Hmm.
if you come across the Dalai Lama, he's probably going to teach you a couple of principles that are going to impact your life, okay?
Sure.
Or a Steve Jobs. They probably got principles that you can learn from, okay? And they are the fundamental structures of existence that they understand, okay?
Hmm.
Because ultimately strategies and how to's are not where the magic is. It's the principles where the magic is. So I would say to people, don't hire a coach, don't hire a mentor. Instead, what you need to do is to tap into yourself. Ultimately, the greatest guide is the guide within, and
Oh
no
yeah.
one can no one ever is going to tell me otherwise. The greatest guide, because whilst you sleep at night, the guide is with you. Whilst you walk through the world, the guide is with you. Whilst
Hmm.
you make a mistake, that guide is with you. Whilst you are successful, the guide is with you. Whilst you fail, the guide is with you. But mentors that you model are only there for 1 hour a week.
Very true. Very true. Absolutely. Wow. Amazing. Golden nuggets right there. We could talk for hours and hours, but we'll keep that short. So, if someone wants, what's the best way to reach out to you if someone wants to connect with you?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways, right? So what I tend to, and this is comes up, so I just share it. I want to give a gift to people that are watching. I want to give a gift, right? And the gift that comes to my mind is if you're a business owner, right? And if you run a business that is semi-successful or successful already, but you're the sort of person, or your business or your company is having to go uphill to build your company. Like you've had success, but you're going uphill. You're rolling the boulder uphill. I want to give you a gift. If you genuinely want to learn the principles of how nature builds and creates, obviously that is applied to business, obviously. If you really want to learn, get in touch with me. I would genuinely like to serve you and show you how life can happen to the path of least resistance, not the most resistance. Business can happen that way. And I would genuinely serve you over a call, but only for people that are serious, that really do want to find their way of being able to create as opposed to the world's way, right? And if you're genuinely serious and you want to learn that, I'm happy to jump on a call with that person, right? So that's a genuine offer.
Awesome. Thank you.
But if you want to get in touch with me, if you want to email me, if you want to go to the website, it's going through a bit of an overhaul, but feel free to go. It's naturalbusiness.org is the website.
Okay.
Naturalbusiness.org. Okay. If you want to email me, you want to get in touch, it's care@naturalbusiness.org.
Perfect. Okay.
And you can also find me on Facebook and LinkedIn, the usual sort of places.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is how you can be in touch.
All right. I'll put all of that in the show notes. Yeah, so if you can send me the link to your LinkedIn, I'll also put it in the show notes if you want.
Yeah,
but I think the website and the email and Facebook are pretty enough. Okay. What would be the last parting tip you would have to someone?
Last parting tip. You can't stop evolution. You can't stop evolution. There is a calling. Evolution happens because there's a carrot and a stick, right? The carrot is your calling, right? Right? And it is calling you in a direction. So my advice to you would be, what is the calling? Where are you being called naturally? And let yourself walk in that direction and watch magic happen.
Lovely. I love that. Man, you're a fountain of wisdom. I love that. I'm so, I just love connecting with great people from around the world. This is the power of podcasting.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, Vineet. We will definitely do a follow-up in a few months. So I salute you. We salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. And I wish you an amazing, evening and week. And stay safe, stay awesome. And God bless, brother.
And bless you too. Bless you too, my brother.
Take care.